Good morning. My name is Genesis Lindbow. I am an independent living specialist with CILWW, or Center for Independent Living for Western Wisconsin, and I specialize in assistive technology. Today's tech talk, if you will, we will learn about how assistive technology can help. We'll chat about some spoon theory, learn about WisTech, or Wisconsin's Assistive Technology Program, and some of the different future options of technology and how it all exists in one big, beautiful picture. What is assistive technology? Assistive technology, or AT, is any product or piece of equipment that is used to maintain or improve the functional capabilities of people with disabilities. It can include low technology, commercially available equipment, high technology equipment, and customized equipment. So when we're talking about assistive technology, it could be as simple as building up a grip with electrical tape, or it could be sliding a foam hair roller onto the end of like a spoon to build up that grip. There are a lot of different options, and there are so many ways to go about assistive technology, but it really is any piece of equipment or product that can be purchased or made to make things easier for an individual. How can it help? Assistive technology can make day-to-day tasks a little bit easier to do, so you can dedicate more time to other areas. Spoon theory is a definite measurement of energy to help convey the task of dedicating energy to specific tasks. So if the standard person wakes up with 25 spoons, somebody with a disability or chronic fatigue may wake up with 13, and they have to figure out how many spoons they're going to dedicate to every single task that they need to complete. So be it work, self-care, personal care, medical appointments, all of those different activities take spoons. And where these two commingle and where they join, where assistive technology and spoon theory can become joined and help each other, is that assistive technology can make some tasks easier and take less spoons. So if a task takes one energy spoon before, with the right technologies, it could take half a spoon. So they have an additional half a spoon to dedicate to another area. Wisconsin's Assistive Technology Program is WisTech. It receives funding from the AT Act, which is a federal legislation. It includes loans, demonstrations, training, technical assistance, and more. WisTech is advised by a consumer-driven council. I happen to be the chairperson of that council, and this is my 6th year, and it will be my last year as chair. WisTech contracts with different service providers to provide these services, and we utilize AT for All, which is Wisconsin AT for All, if you Google that. It is a website where we track the loans, demonstrations, trainings, and all of those things that are exported into reporting that is turned into the federal government. The demonstration and loan program, this is the biggest part of our AT program at CILWW. There are over 1,600 pieces of adapted equipment. It provides an opportunity to try out the variety of assistive technology devices before purchasing, kind of like a library. WisTech is unfortunately not a funding source, but an independent living specialist from CILWW can help locate funding. Some of the items in the picture include a table that is adjustable for in-bed reading, a jar holder, jar opener, some kulu knives, an adapted cutting board, some adapted plates and silverware and cups, some padding to keep things in place, so if you're eating with one hand, your plate doesn't slide all over the place, and a clock with large print numbers. Trainings. So we can help an individual learn how to use technology. This can be in-person trainings, written guides, video playlists, whatever that person needs, and however they learn, we meet what that need is. Each training evaluates what you want to accomplish first and break it down into goals from there. For these trainings, a referral is made to work with an independent living specialist if they don't already have one, to work with that individual specifically on what they want to accomplish. CILWW can also provide trainings on information and communication technology access. This includes accessible social media and accessible digital materials. So the best way to explain what information and communication technology access is that not every single person obtains information in the same way. So I am a combination learner. I learn by hearing it, reading it, and doing it. But if somebody is hard of hearing or deaf, or if somebody is blind, or if somebody can only see everything in black and white, they may not have the same context of what a post is without it being made accessible for their needs. We also provide technical assistance, so we can assist in making more businesses more accessible through trainings, through showing technology, education, advocacy, to make sure that not just our social media and our digital content is accessible, but it is accessible by a variety of other people and a variety of communities to make it more accessible for everybody. Example of the use of our program. This one is very close to my heart. My mom was a special education teacher for over 30 years. And in her classroom, I started going in when I was 6. And her classroom had over $10,000 of adapted toys that she paid for with her own money. If she had access to my program and the work that I do currently, we could have made a lot of those toys at a fraction of the cost. Because we have the training and the knowledge base to make any toy that you can get from the Dollar Tree into a Switch adapted toy with a battery interrupter and just maybe less than $5 of materials, we can make an accessible toy. That being said, a big part of what I assist with is outreach and public awareness and educating people about our program, how assistive technology can be used. A lot of people don't realize that even their smartphones are assistive technology. When you write down your grocery list in your Notes app, that's assistive technology because it's a memory aid. It helps you remember and keep things organized. There are so many variations of technology, and the use of that technology is so flexible and can change at a moment's notice that every single person could be using assistive technology and not even know that they're using it. So, like before, medical versus social model, this is really helpful when it comes to assistive technology. So with the medical model, it holds that the disability is a problem within the person's bodies. So that's where you have the diagnoses, you have the progression of illness, you have all of those things. That information is really, really helpful because it allows you to better understand and better plan your recommendations for equipment. So when I am recommending a specific piece of equipment, I am thinking at least 5 years out. So you hope for the best, plan for the worst. So having an understanding and being able to communicate with the doctors and the medical team to best understand the progression of their illness, that's their wheelhouse and that's their area of expertise. I can use that information and say, this would ease these barriers. The social model is what identifies that it is the society's lack of access and attitude towards disability. So saying, yes, this person has a variety of health issues, but these specific pieces can help make this easier so they can live as independently as possible. So that could be through adapted computer equipment, that could be via smartwatches, it could be their cell phone. There are a lot of different pieces of technology that can help people remain independent, which sometimes surprises the medical teams that I have worked with in the past. I have gone in and they've said, oh, we thought this person was going to go into a community-based residential facility, or they were going to be put in the hospital, but with the right technologies, they were able to stay within their home because of the combination of technology supports and natural supports. So both of these models are really helpful within assistive technology. So we try to be very careful at how we approach information, and also that a diagnosis isn't the end all be all of somebody's experience, and that experiences can be amended and changed and can look different with the right pieces of assistive technology. So to look at the assessment process, a big part of what I do is the assistive technology assessments. We receive a referral for assessments, sometimes requiring a port, other times not. And I utilize the HAAT model, or Human Activity Assistive Technology, and the context in which all of that exists. First, you look at the human. So look at their cognitive abilities, sensory, physical abilities, language, family dynamics, emotional, all of those things that make that person who they are. Then I look at the activity. What do they want to do? What do they want to accomplish? What is the reason for the referral? And turn it into a goal-oriented process. So I would like to increase my screen reader usage by 25% in the next week. That is goal-oriented, it is specific, it is measurable, attainable, time-based. Perfect. Then we look at the assistive technology. So we look at their past use, if they are a novice or an expert at using technology, looking at the human technology interface, or how the human interacts with the technology. Do they need adaptations to a larger piece of technology? What the activity output looks like, and the environmental interface. So how does the piece of technology that we're trying to recommend interact with the person? How does the person interact with the technology? And what about the environment in which it all exists? And then we look at context. So we look at physical context, social context, cultural, institutional. So we look at the different modes of where this could be used. Is it strictly going to only be used in a very specific instance? Or can they only use it at work? Or is it something that could be applicable to their home life, their education, and a variety of different environments? And with that in mind, can a more expensive piece of equipment that might meet their needs better be cost shared? Can a variety of funders be able to chip in a little bit of money because it does have a wide variety of uses? With these assessment processes and the actual process of doing an assessment, the methods are taught or learned over time. I originally started my journey just by doing the loans and demonstrations of the equipment we already had, and then I took a Fundamentals of Assistive Technology training through Rehabilitation Engineering Society of North America, which is the accreditation for assistive technology professionals. So that is a training that I'm working towards getting. It basically means that you know a little bit about any piece of assistive technology. You might have your specialty areas, but you have the ability of making generalized recommendations for a wide population and a wide variety of equipment. My particular expertise area is adapted gaming and adapted computer usage. So specifically with this assessment process, we use both the medical and social model of disability to create the most thorough report possible. In the future of technology, because of the pandemic, our world has been becoming more accessible, but it also brings to light the barriers of access. So looking at telehealth appointments, are those accessible for people that cannot rely on their vision or cannot rely on their hearing? or if that's not their way of learning, are telehealth appointments made accessible for people to meet them where they're at? Same with captioning on Zoom and Teams. I have an auditory processing disorder, so I rely on captions for context. It's not always right, but it's better than nothing. And then looking at the accessible social media and accessible websites. There are a lot of overlays that are specifically marketed to say this overlay will keep you from being sued for not being accessible, when it doesn't make the website accessible at all. So that's where that social model of nothing about us without us comes into play. Have somebody with a disability that you're trying to make sure an item is accessible for, get their feedback on it. They're going to know what the needs are for themselves better than somebody creating and programming something would know. So while I have the knowledge base of a variety of assistive technology, I talk with the person that I am assessing and engage in conversation and say, how do you learn? What should I keep in mind when I'm making these recommendations? How comfortable do you feel with this piece versus this piece? Let's look at different reviews together and assess if this is the right choice. Some of the really cool things, there's actually 2 video games that are approved for medical use by the FDA. One of them is for chronic back pain that utilizes virtual reality. And the other one is specifically as a treatment in conjunction with therapies for ADHD. So our world is changing and has been more inclusive of technology as we move forward. There are also, especially in Japan, they have robots that can be controlled by an email login by a person with a disability. So they can work in restaurants, they can work in different avenues, and even though they're physically not there, they can log into a robot at a moment's notice and be able to work and participate in society. And then there are smart homes. Smart homes are huge for assistive technology. A lot of the technologies that were used for a lot of these assistive devices in the past are what is being used currently. So looking at the Bluetooth connection from your phone to control your thermostat and the Ring doorbells, a lot of those concepts are concepts that were originally developed for people with disabilities, but they're more commercialized now to make them more cost-effective and more user-friendly because it is being marketed to a larger group of people. And then the other thing is the Fitbit Sense 2. So this is a new piece that I have been testing out myself. And what's really cool is that there are little nodules that can detect subtle changes of your body. And it allows people to learn more about their stress triggers. So it can tell the subtle changes in your body, and it asks you to say, hey, you just had an event where we noticed some changes with your body. Explain what you were feeling. So that way, that in conjunction with self-monitoring through journaling or whatever it might be, you might be able to realize some anecdotal trends or like physical trends with the timing of when somebody is experiencing more stress or when somebody is experiencing more happiness, to be able to make better recommendations. And it could definitely influence their care plan and their what things look like from their medical perspective on a larger level. So technology can be a really, really helpful tool, but we also want to be careful that we're not trying to solve things that people don't want solved. So if I walk into a situation and really think that a captioning device would be really helpful for this person, if they don't want that, I'm not going to push it. It is the person's choice to use the technology. So I can make recommendations, but if they don't want to use it, I'm not going to force them. It is person first, always. So telehealth access. I was doing some research to find out more about legislation with telehealth access. And what they're saying and what I've been reading is that it specific to people with disabilities, there are disability discrimination laws like the Rehab Act and Americans with Disabilities Act that prohibit discrimination against people with disabilities and call for equal access to healthcare services, whether in person or via telemedicine appointment. Equal access to telehealth can be achieved by modifying procedures and providing additional support to patients with disabilities before, during, and after a virtual visit. So I will use a personal experience for this. This would have been over a year ago. I had COVID and I was sent this ginormous box in the mail with all of these different pieces of technology that Bluetooth connected to a tablet. And they used a mobile management to be able to gather that data and sync it to my portal. If somebody was receiving that and they didn't know technology, that would be extremely overwhelming. So while I was going through the process, I was saying, this is easy for me and I can get it to work. But what do you have in place to support people that don't have the knowledge base and the skill set that I have? Are you offering supports? Are you offering technical support via virtual means? Are you providing written manuals? Are you providing troubleshooting manuals, operation manuals? Are you providing videos? Like, what are you doing to make sure that anybody can use this? Because it is really helpful. It was really great for me to not have to leave my home, but also make sure that I was being safe. But again, I have a very unique set of skills and a unique knowledge base that made it accessible to me. But I also realized that not everybody is like that. So how can we make kits like that a little bit easier for people to use? Do we provide trainings? Do we provide, what can we do to make that more accessible? So technology has a profound impact, but it can have an even larger impact if the technology is inclusive and accessible by design. What do I mean by that? Inclusive versus accessible design. Accessible design is just one part of inclusive design. However, there are additional things that you can do to create an inclusive product as opposed to one that is just accessible. So some of the things to consider is, who is the user? What are their diagnoses? What is their education? What makes each user who they are, and how do they obtain information? What goals are you trying to achieve? Do you want to increase usage of a product by a certain percentage by each user? Or do you want to see an increase in product by a certain population? What standards are there? Are there standards of practice that you try to be mindful of when you are making the product and delivering the product and following up about it? Looking at tools and technology, how is the design of the technology accessible? Is it user-friendly? Can somebody who has no technological background be able to use it with minimal prompts? One of the examples that I love using is the Microsoft Adapted Controller box. They have a ribbon at the front that you can pull up the tab, and there are magnets to make it so it requires minimal effort to open up the box. They worked with a special designer to make that box accessible. And what are the tasks that you're trying to complete? Some of the technology resources that I want to share is WisTech's Assistive Technology Advisory Council YouTube page. We have trainings on various pieces of technology and various avenues. There are trainings on ethics with technology, and one of my favorites from this past year has been training on accessible event planning. There's also the Rehabilitation Engineering Society of North America. That is a professional organization for individuals who work within assistive technology. They provide the accreditation and the certification for assistive technology professionals. And then we have the Assistive Technology Industry Association. They have some excellent free trainings for individuals looking to expand their knowledge base, and all of those are clickable links. Again, utilize CILWW. We have excellent staff that have a wide knowledge base of various pieces of technology. And feel free to reach out to us if you have specific questions about topics impacting people with disabilities. Some of our collaborative partners, again, include the consumers team. I try to get releases signed for their entire team when I'm doing an assessment, because each of them has valuable information that I can incorporate into my report. I work with audiologists, OBVI, or Office for the Blind and Vision Impaired, Office for Deaf and Hard of Hearing, county programming, aging and disability resource centers, schools, employers, Department of Health Services, advisory councils, and communities. So we work on a larger level, and we try to explore natural supports when necessary. And this is my contact information. CILWW's address is 2920 Schneider Avenue Southeast in Menominee, Wisconsin. Our phone number is 715-233-1070. My name is Genesis Lindbow. I am an independent living specialist who specializes in assistive technology. My number is 715-233-1070, extension 222. And my email address is jlindbo@cilww.com. Thank you so much, everybody. I understand that this can be a little overwhelming, but it is a very important piece and can be a valuable asset to those that are exploring medical devices and the design of future medical devices. That accessibility and being inclusive should always be considered, and there are a lot of excellent resources available to help provide that feedback. If you're designing a product for a person with a disability, or you're trying to build a plan for a person with a disability, include them in that process, because they know more about what their day-to-day life looks like and what their experiences are than what is in a medical book. Your knowledge base is definitely valid, and you definitely have that expertise, but the individual with the diagnoses, they have their own experience with their disability, and they know what it's like to live in their skin. So it's very important to keep that in mind when you are creating plans and trying to work with somebody. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I will respond as soon as I can. Thank you so much, everybody.